So I've been made aware of statutes and what's risky and what isn't in our options. And what I suggest is that we put off the election 30 days with a comprehensive explanation as to why on the Facebook page. And he says that if that's, he says that's appropriate communication to your members if you don't know quite who they are, right? And then restructure the election to make it people voting for a person for a job, right? So these two people are running for chair, these two people are running for treasurer, these people are running for secretary. Then you have the time to find, you can get more time to find more candidates. And if you explain it well, it will be, you know, for them it'll be okay. Maybe not for the membership, but I think I've gotten a lot of good response from what I posted so far on Facebook. That's what I suggest that we delay the election. It'll take a little heat off of what we're trying to do. We'll have a little more time to do it. And we'll be able to restructure it that makes it more bulletproof to come to formal complaints after the election. Because Frank said, he says, and you know this, he says, whatever you do, somebody's going to file a complaint, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So he says that doesn't necessarily, he says that doesn't mean we're going to turn you guys off if someone does, but it depends on the complaint, right? And he says they wouldn't do it for trivial reasons. Intent matters, right? So he basically encouraged me to move forward in some way, right? And I think if we're honest with people on the Facebook page about what we're doing and why we're doing it, I think that would fly. It'll give us all a little extra time. I'll be able to restructure the ballots so that they are particular to a particular job. And
okay.
If we can get if we can get more than get another 7, basically, I'll take down. My job is to keep the candidates together.
So what are the other 4 seats? Vice chair?
Say what again?
What are the other 4 seats? Vice chair?
I sort of know.
Chair,
I
vice
actually know
chair. Well, they say chair, secretary, and treasurer.
Yeah,
But there's 4 more.
Okay, so
What are
that's
they?
a legal requirement.
I actually know who. I sort of paid attention to who's running. So it seems like Joanna Morrill is willing to be either vice chair or secretary, or then what was the other job? At large. So
At large, none of these people thought we ought to deal with at large at all right now.
because people don't read the bylaws. This is a typical thing. They want to be the king and queen, but they don't want to read the bylaws. And the bylaws are really badly written. I have a little bit.
Agreed with me there, and he
Okay.
with me
Okay,
about
but
it.
the way I saw it right now is it seems like we have 7 candidates.
Right.
Robert Schultz, I don't want to speak for other candidates, but Robert Schultz historically has usually gravitated to public safety. That's a required seat. I mean, he's running
Right.
at large, but he usually tends to gravitate to public safety, as Mary knows as well too. What I had understood when Jasmine was originally running, again, she can do whatever she wants, but when she was originally running in August for the September, she wanted to be transportation. Joanna had said that she could be either vice chair, secretary, or at large. And I would say put her in secretary, since that's a really thankless position, but since she said she'd be interested in being secretary, go for it. Don had said he would be chair. Ken said he would be treasurer.
Yes.
Cynthia said she could be transportation. I think she was a write-in candidate. That's what I saw, the last write-in. So we have basically everybody right now, 7 candidates. I really don't feel assured. We've been putting ticklers out now since August, essentially, that we're going to wind up having contested seats for these other, we're lucky we got 7. I'm surprised we even got 7, frankly, right now.
That's 6. What's the 7th position that is supposed to be filled?
It's supposed to be chairperson, vice chair. So I'll just chairperson, Dawn, vice chairperson. We have nobody right now. Oh, we have that other person, Jessica, who's running. Then we have treasurer Ken, secretary Joanna, public safety. And now I'm not, I know it's recorded, but I'm just saying off the top of my head, public safety, Robert, since he usually likes to do that. Let's say Cynthia or Jasmine as transportation. And then the only one that we'd have left actually would be the vice chair. And again, we have 7 candidates, so it could be between, let's say, Jasmine or Cynthia. Cynthia said she wanted to be transportation. Maybe Jasmine would want to be vice
Okay.
chair.
I have my question. The
Please.
secretary, treasurer, chair, vice chair, public safety, transportation, that's 6. What is the 7th spot that's supposed to
Land
be
use,
filled?
land use.
Land use. Thank you.
Yeah.
And
Thank
historically, in other well-run neighborhood associations, they would not have transportation and land use as separate.
Yeah.
That would actually be a land use and transportation chair.
Yeah.
That's something unique to our messed up bylaws. But
Right.
I will tell you right now, just for myself, is I'm getting a little upset about hearing postponing the elections because I'm going to try to be careful of how I'm phrasing this, is the interim board set itself a very limited scope. And I was okay with that personally back in November during the holidays and everything. Right now, we've got the Kalbrenner Safe Rest Village thing coming up. We've got a lot of stuff coming up that we really can't afford to have an interim board that's only dedicated or committed to one thing, getting elections done. The interim board is probably going to need to step up and lead
Yeah.
a little more than they've been doing. So if we can't, and I respect people's capacity and everything else, because you guys were very nice about stepping up as it was, but if we can't get the 5 who are appointed by Miss Jean Fang to be our interim chair to step up and do what they need to do, well, then I don't know how we're going to continue. The Kalbrenner thing really bothers me. And at this point, I'm so disgusted. I'm willing to say, hey, DOJ, if you want to dissolve, go ahead. My big issue is please do not give the money, the little money that's left. To
Well,
collect.
yeah, they don't want to pay, basically, they don't want to spend the money to do that. If they shut us down, it has to go into court and the attorneys all, bill for it, and they want to stay out of that as much as possible.
I had heard from Miss Jean Fang when she gave, and people need to review that August general meeting, but again, she may have been just talking out of her hat or whatever, that that all it had to do was basically we as an organization can decide to dissolve as well too. And we could give all the money to East Portland Collective. That's what basically they were telling us in August. We could dissolve, give all the money to them and give all the recognition to them, and we'd be quit of the whole thing. It may take more
I'd
work.
rather not do that. I'd rather continue trying to get this back on track.
Yeah,
If
so
it
would
takes
I.
longer, I'm sorry, I understand, but someone has raised serious issues, and like Don said, we may have to take longer, but if that's what it takes, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, I would
I
agree
need
with
to-
that too, except for one
If you
thing.
do this, I need to reconstruct all the notices, and we gotta start the clock over again on all this. So it would have to be at least 30 days from when we start again, right? So, and it's gonna be a chore to find, I believe that I've got better communication now with folks.
Were you ever able to find the mailing list?
Not yet, but I've got ideas about that.
Okay.
I'm gonna go at Sabrina one more time on these things.
Surely there must be a mailing list in the records somewhere of before Sabina took over.
Yeah, I've been looking and I haven't seen anything like that yet.
Because
Like
Joanne
it's-
was involved in the election before, we had a very large mailing list.
Yeah.
It must be somewhere in the records.
It's over, it should be with EPCO should have it because they have all, like I said, when we had 2 recall elections that were failed because we can't recall anybody according to our bylaws, Richard Bixby, who was executive director of EPCO at that time, and I was secretary, he had a membership list for LNA because he was checking signatures against that membership list. I
Okay,
know that I was sending rosters, as was Heather Chapman, my predecessor, to,
okay, I'll,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
becomes more important and I have more time if we.
Okay.
if-
yeah, I guess
Hey,
my,
Dawn, Cora Potter might be able to direct you somewhere. She was a big part of the LNA before Sabina, and
Okay.
she's really knowledgeable. Maybe
Okay,
she
I
can,
have never talked to her.
Cora Potter.
Yeah,
but I wanted to remind people too that when Sabina ran in 2018, and we have a copy of that email when she was running for her campaign. She had quit, she had resigned to unresign and then decided to run again. She went and claimed in her list of prodigious accomplishments that she had compiled a membership list. So, I mean, if she starts BSing and say, oh no, I know nothing, it's like she said that we never had one before, and thanks to her, which was,
Oh, we had one before.
of course we did. I helped do one. I helped do one. Krista and I helped do one, you know, and we gave it to, the last thing I remember is giving a hard
were-
copy of it to EPNO.
There were sign-in sheets at every one of those meetings.
Exactly. And that's how, and also when you do elections rosters, as you know, because you helped me, Mary, with those, those are the membership lists. And they had to be
Okay.
filed with.
okay, I don't mind pressing Sabina for that now.
Okay, so then my question is if we're looking at one, I guess another month, if we keep on, I really don't feel, and I'm pretty optimistic sometimes, is I don't really feel that we're going to get a matching, that we're going to get 14 people running, you know, for elections, even with an extra month. I don't see that happening at all. People are not interested. They're a little wary that it was a very negative last words, final thoughts manifesto that was written that freaked out a lot of people. Some of us do have jobs. I was discouraging my husband actually for running because I said, I don't want Clark College to be called by some Yahoo threatening to get you fired. We need our livelihood. And according to Sabina and Miss Jean Fang, their bosses were being called and all this other stuff. And a lot of people that I've approached don't want to run for that reason. I know a lot of people who want to be in a land use committee, and we have to have a land use committee per our bylaws and generally, but they don't want to be a land use chair because they're there, at least as a committee member, they're running less of a risk of having their employer contacted. We're not all retired. We're not
You know,
all.
Has Sabina made a bunch of accusations? Does it make it true, Joanne?
Oh, I know that, but the thing is, we were never allowed, well, we did sort of a rebuttal now, but it's, I'm a little peeved with EPCO because I had asked EPCO, I said, could you ask Jean and Sabina to at least allow us to post a rebuttal or a refutation? And Jose gave me the same stuff that, oh, just because it's written, it doesn't mean it's true. But usually in a democratic society, you at least have a way
So,
to refute it.
I mean, how does this relate to having elections?
Yes,
And now I'm just saying is how it relates to elections is how on earth are we supposed to persuade people to run? That's how it relates to elections. We had a lot of negative stuff posted, including on villageportland.com about
Okay,
elections.
So,
How are we supposed to continue? My concern right now, because I don't really care about LNA as an institution, is what are we going to do about some of the business, the pressing business that's coming up? If you want to give the Kalbrenner and land use over to Glenn Strong housing team, I'll take it and I'll run with the Kalbrenner Safe Rest Village stuff, and I'll take care with my own group, we can go, but we can't just take it away from y'all because that's the neighborhoods association is supposed to do it. And Kalbrenner's coming up. We've got a meeting scheduled on March 18th to go and meet. And if we want to give it to LNLA, that's fine too. If you want to give it to Len Strong Housing Team, that's okay too. But you can't just say to us, "I'll go ahead and take it." We need to have some formal designation to the city that, hey, LNA wants nothing to do with land use anymore because we're in hiatus, and we will be gladly giving it to LNLA and to Len Strong Housing Team as our representatives. But you can't just pretend Kalbrenner and the other land use stuff is not occurring.
Well, you're right there, and it's even harder if we delay, and you're right there too.
Yeah.
So I'd be willing to work those issues. I think that's
So do we have,
more than I would have been a month ago, right? So, you're
Because right
right.
now-
If we delay, being able to get back to the real business, and land use is a big part of that.
Yeah, it is. And it's a very, and like I said, people were
I
paid.
would, you know, I would help you, Luann, and in terms of, I've already talked to Charpente about that particular issue. So she's gonna, and I've emailed back the other guy about, no, this was a different one. This was a different architect that was looking for a time to present. It wasn't the Kalbrenner, the toxic waste dump they want to turn into a homeless shelter, right? So they can take certain of those issues where they want to present for a new development or something like that. Cal, you're right. This thing with the waste dump and the homeless, whatever they call it, safe rest village, right? That's if if we could get a board in, they could do it. But if we're going to take more longer, then we got to do it, right?
But the thing is, the interim board was appointed really to act as the board. You all chose to limit your scope, which is
Right.
fine.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fine for a couple of months,
If
but
they
it's
make a
not
good
okay.
explanation.
Because right now we're not doing anything. All we're doing is trying to run elections, and we look like a bunch of fools if we cancel it yet again.
Well, yeah, but we're running the risk that once it's done and a complaint is filed, that the attorneys decide that there was some technicality that wasn't followed correctly from our bylaws, and the whole thing's moot, and then DOJ has to decide what to do.
Well, the thing is that in 2019, and we reported it to the DOJ, there were only 9 people who voted in Sabina and the rest, and nobody did anything about that. And our quorum is 10, at least 5 of whom we only had.
I just all squeeze by, but Frank, who was very sympathetic, couldn't guarantee that.
So did you talk to Frank today? I was a little late. So
I talked to Frank today.
yeah, because I'm going to be talking to, I've been holding off since November, but I'm going to call Frank as an LNA member too. And I'm going to basically tell him that your Sabina's holding the membership list hostage. And what should we do about the not being able to get the records? If we're going to wait and put off elections, we need to get Topher or somebody else, appoint somebody else as treasurer to get those bank records. Because we're not waiting any longer. We need to
things start becoming important again
against these people and everything else. So we need to look at those bank reports. We haven't seen, I understand that Topher's having some issues, but we need to have somebody.
I will quit. No, stop. You are way over the line. We are an interim board. We were not elected. We were appointed. We cannot engage in any of that stuff. That is grossly unethical. Absolutely not. If you try to push us into that, I will quit.
Well, I'll have to ask.
You're doing a good job. If you want the LNA to end, you're doing a good job getting us that direction right now.
No,
okay?
I'm just saying is I have
Elections
to talk
are the focus.
Let Thomas speak.
I get you have an agenda. That's fine. Good. We need those things, and this Kalbrenner stuff. Okay, we can look at it, but we cannot take stances. Go forward with issues. We are not elected. We do not represent the interests of this neighborhood at this time, other than its interest in having a neighborhood association.
Right.
So, I mean,
Well, that's not what I heard.
that's it. We are not, we are appointed. All
Well, I
right,
heard-
it is,
According to ONI
No.
standards, I'll talk to Frank tomorrow, but according to ONI
oh, I
standards,
don't care.
they were
All right.
saying that they were saying any, they were saying that
Thomas speak.
That's out of line for me. My willingness, what I'm willing to do here. I'm here because I believe we need to have representation. I'm not here to engage in any of that other business. I'm just here because this is what we have, even though neighborhood associations suck as a method of working with the city. But I believe we need to be having it, and I'm not interested in engaging in anything other than getting people elected at this time. I will not do it, and without a legitimately elected board.
okay, I'll call Frank tomorrow. That's my plan, because what Frank had told me, and like I said, different stories get told to different people. And what I understand from ONI standards is that the appointed board has the same power as anybody elected. That came up before. We'd go and we'd say sort of style, well, that person was just appointed. They weren't elected because somebody had resigned or whatever else. And we were always told it doesn't matter. They still have the same power as anybody they're replacing.
Well,
And-
I don't know if that impresses Thomas, but I agree with you that it was a
Yeah, that doesn't
self-imposed
impress me at all.
ethical mandate. And I think it was a genuine one, and I think it was correct. I'm just wondering if it's
Special
still,
occasion, Joanne. This isn't like ordinary times when someone's appointed by the group. This is a special occasion where these people have been specially appointed to get a new board online.
Yeah, if this was like a board appointment happening, yeah, that's fine. But no, we do not currently have an elected board. That's why that has to be priority one. Now you
You're
push
right.
back on not wanting
You're right,
to pursue. So
that
saying that
wasn't
you
a
don't
concern
want
with
it to,
DOJ though.
yeah, no, I mean, it would, I guarantee you that if we did any business and somebody complained about it and that we were an appointed board, not an elected board, that would go south for us very fast.
Yeah,
That
I
would be,
think there's.
that's a pretty egregious abuse of
Talking to
power.
Frank, he didn't think that was a risk. They see the interim board as the board of directors. And I understand your concerns, Thomas, and I want you to go along with this, right? But we can't really afford to lose you. So you got to agree to this in some manner or form, right? So we got to make it work for you too, right? It's got to work.
So if we need to continue to stick with having the elections on the 22nd, okay. And I think probably at least temporarily, urgent business can be put out to other groups, letting them know. I checked in our email. I don't see any of that Kalbrenner stuff in our emails.
There was one that I passed off to LNLA.
Okay.
But
But yeah,
remember
this
the name
focus
of
needs to stay. We need to stay focused on elections. Other business is not okay.
Okay, and I just wanted to remind though about the appointments too, is that remember that we're not supposed to replace normally all 7 at 1 year. So anybody who was actually appointed by one of the board members who was supposed to be in whatever year, there's some board member, there are some people on the board, the interim board right now, who actually are appointed till whenever the end of the term is, if we chose not to do elections, technically. So I'll talk to Frank tomorrow because I'm utterly confused right now. I feel a little, since Thomas vented too, I have no agenda except that this has gone on for too long. We had illegally elected board members in 2020. We had illegally elected board members in 2019. Now, all of a sudden, it seems like 2021. And I'm a highly ethical person. I would say that this is probably doable. I will talk to Frank. Otherwise, what I'm really disappointed in is that if all we needed to do was do an election. We actually could have, we didn't need to break for the holidays. We could have started as soon as the elected board, the interim board was appointed. They could have said, we're doing elections and start with a ballot and all this other stuff. When now we're again pushed off. And at this point, I feel like, well, why don't we just wait till September and go on hiatus and let LNLA and let my group take care of everything? And
That's one of the options too, is to wait until September. Yeah, and Frank didn't say we needed to do that. But he did say that the
I don't want to wait that long.
September restrictions in the bylaws probably applied to any large-scale election that we held, right? So that makes it harder yet to, but by September, we're probably free of masks and all this as well. But we need a bit of extra time to sort this out, or it's going to be, a worthless effort, right? So I really want to get this over with. One way or another, in many ways. But I also want to try to put this thing on its best foot as it could, so it can try to survive on its own. And another iffy thing with a lot of contention, a lot of people talking about it, and that's kind of inevitable anyway. But if the idea, the reason I proposed the ranked choice was to give people some power over what was happening. If I just presented with a ballot with a single candidate for each office, you can vote for them or not, they're going to be in there. That ain't much of an election either, right? So the way it's shaping up isn't all that great for me, the way I would want it to go either. So
Yeah.
well, what
I
happened?
mean, ranked choice would be nice, but at this point, I don't know if that's what would be beneficial to us. I think our primary goal at this point should just be get the elections going. Since we do have some input from the DOJ, I guess we should probably make sure that we hammer down candidates to positions to reduce the number of complaints and validity of those complaints.
But what happens though, and I'm somebody who's been around for a while, as has Mary, so I'm going to tell you this, is that the last 2 years, we never had more than 7 candidates. I don't see why we would have why we'd have contested slates this year, particularly during a pandemic. In 2016 and 2017, and Mary will testify to this, we had over 200 people show up and we had contested slates. Since Sabina became chair, then it just became like 9, 24, and this was even pre-pandemic. This was not just pandemic stuff. So we never had more than 7 people the last probably 4 years anyway. And historically, what's been the case is everybody wants to be chair. Everybody wants to be the king or the queen. Everybody wants maybe to be vice chair, right? But nobody wants to be secretary. It's a horrible job. Nobody wants to be treasurer. It's a horrible job. And everybody likes at large, because I agree with Bob Santangelo. Yeah, it's a nice placeholder. You just sit there and you can get your name on, it's a nice placeholder, and that's about it. Public safety usually is more popular. I'm surprised nobody's running for public safety, particularly now, but that's just the way it's been going. So I guess I'm a little disappointed too, because when the board did its appointment of the interim people, it went out and chose some people, discarded other people's candidacy, and we only have really 3 active interim board members, and 5 were appointed. So Kyle Linhoyers needs to shish or get off the pot, frankly.
Well, I needed him, I needed him to get to the 7, right? So, or I needed him in the original, on this original board as a placeholder for that sort of thing. Now, Kyle is going to do whatever Kyle does, like Thomas is going to do whatever Thomas does, and you're going to do whatever you do, right? So, and frankly, I don't trust Kyle all that much.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
So You know, I don't think we can depend on that. But I think we have to back away from this ranked choice setup, and to do that, we have to give notice of what the rules are changing to and time for everybody to understand that. And to have that message, the explanation for that, follow through the community, right? That this is why we're doing it.
What happened at the August meeting too, though, was at the August meeting, it was pretty clear, and there were two visitors from other neighborhood associations who were there with whom I'm in contact from another district coalition. And they told me they didn't understand why the bylaws revision committee didn't just start itself, because according to what these two neutral parties had understood, we had all agreed at the August general meeting that we would go and revise bylaws. And then all of this would be moot because these are the worst written bylaws in the history of America, probably, you know. Right. And so I'm there thinking, you know, this is really not, I feel like I've wasted my time quite a bit the last couple, because I put a lot of effort into this.
We're all in this as well, and
yeah, but at least you all have a little bit more decision-making power, whereas the rest, I'm glad I don't have much decision-making power actually, because then that doesn't make me a target by the community. But it's just really, I'm worried about land use. I'm worried about some other stuff. I'm worried about the fact that, you know, now it's 2 years. No, it's in September 2019 that financial irregularities were noticed. And now it's going to be potentially September 2022 with no answers to these financial irregularities. That really bothers me because it was theft from a poor community by people who had more money than the community did. And then the other issue, of course, is land use. And it really bothers me that it seems that we must be getting some city bureau notifications that would need to be posted on Facebook. So I mean,
I went to the BDS site and they have a notification thing, you know, do you want notifications about this, that, and the other sort of
but we're
thing.
supposed to automatically be getting all these notifications. And I'm wondering if when the former board left, they went and just told everybody, oh, just contact me at Sabina Lentz NA or contact me at Jean Fang PDX or what. We should have probably, they were always complaining, the former board, about how much email they got from the city bureaus, inviting us to do this, inviting us to do that, inviting us to town halls. And we haven't had anything posted since September 13th. And Kalbrenner, I only happened to find out indirectly through the news, and that we should have been notified right away. We are the neighborhood contact for that. There's development going on over at the Oddfellows building there, the former working class acupuncture. We should be getting notifications about what's going on.
I've looked at they post those things and I see nothing relevant for Lentz in all of their postings.
Their postings are not as specialized as the ones that they send to the neighborhood contacts. And that's why Lentz Strong Housing Team and LNLA wanted to get on that special neighborhood contact list. And BDS, for whatever reason, refused to put us on because they said we were not the official neighborhood contact. There was a whole meeting about this. Those are sort of belated postings. The immediate postings get sent to the neighborhood association.
Well, we can make sure that happens better. I mean, I suppose somebody can give us more information on it, whether it's Josie or that would be a city function. So it'd be Josie or somebody like that.
She's right. All those things should be coming to
Lentz neighborhood at Gmail. Yeah.
The land use person would address some of those things and the safety chair would address some of those things.
So I think we can be an honest broker of information, but posting any of this stuff to go to Thomas's objection here, not advocating for a certain solution, but posting what information we have and brokering that information to other groups, the LNLA or your Lentz Strong group, to actually do the advocacy for one position or another, for one perspective or another.
Because there's like $200,000 in Prosper Community Livability Grant funding that's going to open up on March 14th. And it's like, I know about it. Some other people know about it because we've been interested in Prosper stuff. That's stuff that should be posted on the LNA Facebook page that, hey, we've got $200,000 in grant funding coming
We
to.
can do it now. We can do it.
Well, he did come and speak to the LNLA.
Right.
Told us all about that.
Right.
But we need to get back to the main topic. Are we gonna move forward with the election or are we going to postpone it again?
Say what now, Mary?
I think we're still stuck on the question, are we going to move forward with the election or postpone it?
Yeah, and I vote for postponing it at least 30 days. But we don't have Thomas.
Thomas,
Thomas, go ahead.
I'm here.
go ahead. What's your thought?
I would prefer not to if we can avoid it. I mean, if we have 7 candidates, just make it a straight up. We don't have to worry about interest voting. Just do.
I believe we have 6 candidates.
There's 7, I think now.
That's right. My wife agreed to be the write-in. So there's 1 write-in underneath.
So that makes it 7
If
then.
we can communicate with them and get them to commit to a position that they're running for, then I'm good. If we can't do that, then yes, I agree. Then we need to postpone.
Your last, if we can't do that, what?
If we can't get people to commit to a position they're running for, then we should probably postpone. I agree then.
Okay.
I agree
Okay.
with Thomas too. Yeah, I agree with that too, is that if they can't commit to one position, then and
Then
so
we should probably get some we need to get some new candidates or something.
Yeah, what I'm worried about is basically, Thomas, what you said. One of us decides that they can't do it anymore, and it all starts falling apart, either with us or with the group of candidates, right? So that's a concern too. But I really don't want to do all this and have it shot down basically in the courts.
I mean, the feedback about people wanting to be at large, I think that's some very valid feedback. People, I think, until we get positions filled, people should probably declare the positions they want to be in. I think that's a fair point. My original thinking was that once we just can get people elected, and at that time, then that board decides amongst themselves who's going to be which position. But it is absolutely correct that at-large positions are not going to be filled until all other positions are filled.
Correct.
That's right, but that was the part
that is agreed.
I agree.
That was the part that Frank thought was the iffiest, was that you weren't voting for an actual person for that position. Yeah.
So on what,
Given that feedback, I'd like to, that helps the DOJ be happier. So, I think it benefits us all.
I'm very encouraged that he was as friendly to me as he was. He told me that I could call him for if you have any questions you want to put in writing, I can propose them to him and give you back the answers. Joanne, if I know that you've talked to him before. I mean,
I was
agent,
instrumental in getting the DOJ involved, actually.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't going to do that either. But since it's happened,
yeah.
Dawn, what position is your wife going to take?
She figured she could do the transportation one.
Okay.
So Don, can you follow up with the candidates and get them to commit to positions?
Yeah, I'll follow up with them.
Thank you.
And then we can revisit this. Can you get back to us with email, like on an update or something? Because and we can make a final decision, I guess, next week. God, I hate to get that close to elections.
Okay.
With this, but
okay. All right. I'll see what if I can keep these caps in line. the other set of cats. You're one set of cats. No, I'm gonna go talk to the other set of cats. But I appreciate all the feedback, Thomas. You know, you've been invaluable, you know, saying what you believe, and you're a board member. You've got to vote, right? When it comes down to it.
Thank you. And the rest of you, if there are issues that are like time sensitive and need addressed somehow, sure, do bring that to our attention. Because I find we have this if there's money coming up that helps us with housing here, boy, do we need to make sure we act on that. That is something that, of course, we need to do something to make sure that that goes through successfully. Again, I don't see anything in the email about that, but keeping if we are here to that is one thing that I believe we do. I just don't have the information or know what to do about it. I'd be happy to. I do support, of course, making sure that is whatever needs to be done to make those things successful for the time being.
Well,
so we get a proper board in here.
Nixed this one in the bud once before, right? By 300 people showing up on the site when the officials were there, right? So it was from what I understand, it was a pretty successful be-in, I guess you call it, from the old days.
Well, it probably won't go through because it's in a floodplain, and there's been recent precedent with Brentwood Darlington on Southeast 45th and Harney. They were going to go and put a safe rest village very recently there, and Audubon Society got involved, as well as Brentwood Darlington, and it wound up being nixed because it was in a floodplain.
Right.
Yeah.
An issue that's
don't you
think with housing.
Don't you think if we're representing Lentz, the attitude in Lentz is basically we don't want any of them here, right?
I think that place on Reedway is a completely ridiculous location. It's so far removed from the MAX or the bus or any services.
Yeah, they won't want to stay there.
It's totally ridiculous spot.
Right, unless you're going to lock the fence, lock the gate, right?
Well, it's just too far removed from anything that they need access to.
Yeah, I mean, I think they looked at it because it was not very visible. I mean, if you like Google Street View around this thing, it's hard to see what's going on in there, right?
Yeah.
There's an auto body shop on one side, and then there's the whatever that wildlife refugee, Beggars Tick
Beggars
refuge on the other side.
But there are some low-income families around there too, including with children. My husband and I drove by with the dog and our son the other day, and we did not see any large removal of dirt. We saw piles of dirt there. So I'm not really confident that they did indeed remediate that toxic dirt. I just see big piles like ziggurats there. And then we noticed that actually there were a lot of lower income distressed homes, some with children there, because you could see the play.
Yard.
So, you know, the other issue that's coming up, because Thomas had brought up about housing, is, again, I've been involved in housing justice for a while here in this community, and Palindrome was supposed to put in 92H, which is right next to the Boys and Girls Club, that big field. Yeah. And the promise was that, okay, we were going to let Palindrome get away with putting in market rate housing on our nickel and our clock, because of the fact that the Portland Housing Bureau and Metro would then be putting affordable housing, deeply affordable housing at 0 to 30% right adjacent to it. Wearing my other hat, I contacted Portland Housing Bureau and I said, hey, Palindrome doesn't seem to be in any hurry to put in 92H. I realize it's COVID and everything, but is this deeply affordable unit at block F that they're calling, is that contingent upon 92H? And I was told, yes, indeed, it is. So community feedback right now, wearing my other hat, is why on earth is Palindrome being allowed to use taxpayer dollars to go and build at the Oddfellows when it still owes us 92H so we can get that block F? Why are taxpayer dollars going towards building a pavilion when we still don't have 92H? And this becomes a housing issue. Why are we paying with our urban renewal monies for market rate housing. Why
Okay.
does Palindrome not
And this
pay
is why
property
we,
taxes? You know?
and this is why we've got to get an elected board in place as soon as we possibly can. because
Exactly, that's why I'm saying
issues
that too, yeah.
Right.
Because-
And I think,
this is stuff that needs addressed. But I just, like I said, since we are not elected, I don't feel okay with taking that advocacy on.
Yeah,
well, let's see what we can accomplish in terms of what we talked about.
Okay.
Let me,
Yeah. What we can get people committed to. And,
yeah,
and, you know, since we have opened up the LNA Facebook page to comments,
right.
so feel free to comment neighborhood issues on that page.
great.
we can post-
Absolutely. Everybody
Okay.
can post that right now. And Thomas and I,
So, I mean,
and I guess Topher as well can moderate. it. But I've got no
moderate it.
job, so except this, so I can moderate the Facebook page. Candidate.
So, yeah, do feel free to bring up these kinds of issues on Facebook, make them public, not just
Yes.
us. Because
Yeah, I
we're
want
a
to
small,
start
limited
a
group.
little
here,
more
and
often
we're-
about what our
our purpose is-
concerns are here,
Yeah,
about what we're doing and why we're doing it and why we tried to concentrate just on the election, and then why we feel now that we have to start, you know, if we do have to back up and redo a couple things and give fair warning to everyone again, that we're going to start doing more of the business of that can't wait. And that will be more of the business. And something like this is something that very likely rises to that level, right?
And even if it's just to say, hey, contact LNLA or contact Lynn Strong Housing Team, that's okay, but we can't just ignore it. I'm getting emails from people because a lot of people contact me and
Yeah.
they're telling me, isn't it a shame we don't have a neighborhood association to advocate for us? Because this is a neighborhood contact. This is where the city expects us to go. And we have nowhere to go.
Right, right. And I
yeah,
agree with that. I think
that's so important. That's why I'm here. We've got to have a neighborhood association. It's what we currently have to work with.
Right. There's another possibility that if we do delay a month, we can do the whole election physically. Right?
Say a
Well, the
month.
indoor mask, the mandate is done on the 11th.
I still think it needs to be some online.
Okay, that's fine. I
Okay.
was just saying that it's possible that.
I agree. I think we should have this stuff online as well. I think that future order of business should be to include online functions for
Yes.
online
yes.
options for voting.
Yes. And if we get past the election and we're still all here, I'd like to have normal meetings have
Yes,
that online presence visible as well, a big screen.
yes,
Yes.
yes. Okay,
All right, so
Thank you very much.
I've got stuff to do. Anybody gets any bright
And
ideas, let me know.
Yeah.
Diane, I know you can do this. Point me at some content about Readway that we could then post about it, right? Like if you could make a suggestion of what we post on the Facebook page about that issue, I'll go ahead and construct that post.
well, that it's remote, that it's not close to transportation or services.
I had done I had sent everybody, I know everything gets buried because we've got a lot of threads going on. I had sent a reading list that, like just
Yeah, okay.
articles. And what was interesting is Street Roots had looked at some of the other safe rest villages, and the 5 questions they will always ask is, how close is it to Max? How close is it to a grocery store that accepts WIC or SNAP?
Right.
How close is it to a hospital that accepts OHP? How close is it to the nearest library? I didn't even think about that. And how close is it to Parks and Rec?
Oh, wow.
And we don't fit any of those criteria.
library is interesting because that's where you can get free internet access. to.
Right, exactly. And free
Right.
printing now too.
Right.
So,
So
yeah.
you mentioned street routes in one of those emails, right?
Yeah, I did. I sent, like I said, I did a nice little, it took me about 2 hours. I did a nice little reading list.
Oh,
for
thank you.
that was-
It's a good email.
That'll be
Hello.
the basis for what I write up about it.
Yeah,
Okay. And Thomas, I'm just gonna make it informational. We'll talk about how it's isolated and
Yeah.
all, you know, but we're not gonna come out and
Well-
say we're against it or for it.
no, my reading list was
Right.
my read, I'll send it to you and you can take whatever you want out of it, but make sure you give Len Strong Housing Team credit for having come up with it and you can cut and thing. Mine was just saying, here's the article about what's going on. Here's the other article to show that they're claiming that remediation has occurred. Here's the articles that I found that shows that they were thinking about remediation, but I haven't found anything else about remediation. Here's a Street Roots article where they say these are the considerations. So it's very much, usually Len Strong Housing Team tries to be really neutral about stuff. And
Okay,
then the other issue was that was a little more political, was Western Regional Advocacy Project came up with a good 6-page position statement where they mentioned that a lot of times these sanctioned encampments are put in very poor neighborhoods that are already crime ridden. And it's part of a,
oh, sure, they ain't gonna put it
yeah,
over
and,
in the 20 parts of West Portland, I know.
right, but that was sort of an interesting point because sometimes rap is very political about really advocating for the civil rights of houseless people, and houseless people do have civil rights. I agree with that 100%, but almost at the expense of other people. And here they actually went and said, hey, do you realize that it's always the poor who get saddled taking care of the poor, and this needs to change? And that I thought was a really good statement that they had put in there.
Right. Okay, so,
Okay.
I mean, Joanne, if you wanted to post it, that's fine. If you don't, I can take it.
No, I'll let you look at it because again, I tend to have a little, like I say, I'm as unbiased as humanly possible, but I realize I have my own biases as well too.
Yeah, but you're not on the board, so if you post something there, it's you.
Yeah, but you can get into trouble that way too, because then it starts looking like Nextdoor or any of these. So you got to watch. We've had problems with that in the past.
True.
So I will just go and
True.
I will just go and send you again. I had sent it already, but I'll send you the thing, and you can cut and paste and use whatever you like.
Okay.
But it was actually well done. I mean, it was very neutral. It just said, see this, see this, see this, and that was it. And figure it out for yourself how you feel.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna try to herd up the candidates and get them to commit to particular slots. And
The only person the only two people
Yeah, that's
slots that I
okay.
think are going to be problematic probably are going to be vice chair and transportation. Because like I said, historically, I don't like to speak for Robert, but historically, Robert has gravitated towards public safety. And then the other people pretty much have chosen at least one of the spots. What you have to be careful is you can't have Cynthia, they'll be vice chair if Dawn is chair. That probably would not be a good idea because it's husband and wife,
no, it would have to be her
I
as
agree.
chair and me as vice chair.
She said transportation, so I think it's fine.
Yeah, but I don't know if Jasmine's going to want to go for vice chair. She might. Jasmine originally was transportation way back in September.
Okay. All right, so I got organize the candidates, and I've got create a post about Reedway.
And I'll send you my link, right, my handout, my info sheet
Right.
after we get off this meeting. And people can look at
We're
it.
still trying to track down the membership list.
Yeah,
And the membership list. I got it.
It surely must be in the record somewhere, in a computer record or a physical file or something, after all those years of all those meetings of people getting in.
I think the problem is that from when secretaries who were doing the list of attendees, like me, like Heather, like Morgan Carpenter, even Morgan was good about that. In order to protect people's privacy, we never put their contact info. And usually when we had the the sign-in sheets, like Mary very rightly said, that's where we handed it off to EPNO, now EPCO. So they should have it in a meetings at eastportland.org, theoretically. But most of us were really careful if we listed, and most of us, the secretaries who did what they were supposed to do, we did list the attendees. You're just going to have names there. But I know I was really good about listing attendees. Morgan was and Heather was, but then you'd have to go, let's say, on White Pages directory and start tracking everybody down that way. But EPCO should have it.
I'll talk to EPCO. I'll send an email to Sabina, see if I can get her to do it. I was able to basically pin her in the corner, and I thought I was going to get membership, the sign-in sheets from Nick Christensen, but it's just a bunch of garbage that he had in his office.
Yeah,
It's proper that we dispose of it.
I wouldn't-
But it's all from 2010 to through 2013. So there's probably nothing you're interested in there either, Joanne.
I wouldn't count too much on him for anything either.
Yeah.
No, he's the first person I've met that was sympathetic to Sabina.
Well, a lot of this is peer stuff too. So, you know, and I see that with myself even too, because I'm older, I tend to more side with old. So these are all parents with young children, and they all hang out in the same play group essentially. So that,
Yeah. He had a bunch of like kids stuff on his front porch and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
thanks a
Thanks all
lot.
for
Thank you,
showing up.
everybody.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you.
Thank you.
I almost called you Ken.
Thanks, folks.
And Mary. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank promise so much.
Yeah, thank
I'll be
you.
in touch.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.